Hi folks, David Burkett here, convener of SNP Peterhead. I'm sure we're all shocked and stunned by the antics of P&O ferries last week. Just in case you all missed it, 800 British seafarers were laid off with no notice and immediately replaced by agency workers. I'm sure we all feel desperately sorry for those workers and their families. Tory MP for Dover, Natalie Elphick, was so incensed that she took off down to the Dover P&O offices where the RMT were picketing to show her solidarity with the newly sacked workers. But sadly for Natalie, those workers have memories.
You voted for fire and rehire! You voted for fire and rehire! You voted for fire and rehire! Shame on you, man! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
Ouch. That's not gone well. Surely things will go better when someone a bit more senior gets involved. Step forward, government ministers, Kwasi Kwarteng and Grant Shapps, both writing strongly worded letters to the chairman of P&O Ferries to express their dismay. As seen here, pretty strong words carrying the weight of being written by two government ministers. Surely after this strong intervention, those nasty bosses at P&O would change tack. Well, no, because sadly, this approach reminded me of one of my favourite scenes from parody movie Team America.
I'm sorry, but the UN must be firm with you. Let me see your whole palace or else.
Or else what?
Or else we will be very, very angry with you. And we will write you a letter telling you how angry we are.
Because those weighty words were written to, and there's no nice way to put this, a guy who retired last year. Kwasi and Grant are all over this, eh? I suspect they're both feeling a bit Hans Brex this week, and so they should, particularly Kwasi Kwarteng, as he is one of 5 MPs who penned this weighty tome, Britannia Unchained. If any of you out there want to know why a party who started a programme to pay down the UK national debt in 2010 actually doubled it, then get a copy of this. Though we'd suggest you borrow it rather than buy it, lest you line all the co-authors' pockets even further. Because when you read this book, it really reveals the mindset of the current crop of Tories. Outsourcing, embedding the private sector into public service, also known as selling off publicly owned services and eventually the NHS, slashing standards and workers' rights. Yes, folks, as one of the 5 co-authors of this trash, Kwasi Kwarteng MP has written a book to champion the very kind of outcomes that he is now writing letters of complaint about in full outrage to the wrong people. You'll also see that everyone is trying to link this unfortunate turn of events to COVID-19, and no one is trying to link it to Brexit. But part of the reason that P&O aren't doing so well in the UK is because of these lovely new post-Brexit ferry routes that are now in operation. And those were a response to Brexit, not COVID. It used to be that the fastest and most economically viable freight route from the continent to Ireland and vice versa was across the Channel on a ferry, overland across the UK, then another short ferry journey from Wales to Ireland, or in the other way. Nowadays, that route is neither fast nor cost-effective, so those sneaky continentals and those even sneakier ferry operators just decided to miss that bit out. And if you're P&O UK, that's got a sting. Folks, I work in the shipping industry, and the practice that P&O are engaged in is nothing new. They've done it in a very abrupt and very shocking manner, but bringing in foreign agency workers is rife in shipping. It's easier in shipping than most professions as it's an international trade with globally recognised qualifications and standards, and British seamen, particularly ratings, are becoming a rarity. Trade union, the RMT, are up in arms about P&O's antics, and you'd think, quite rightly so. But the RMT would do well to remember this campaign ad from 2016, where they said we should vote leave as the EU was a threat to industry, services, workers' rights, job protection and wages. Take note, RMT members, because there are P&O sailors who are not being replaced by cheaper agency labour. And those are the Irish and French ones, working on those lovely new post-Brexit routes between France and Ireland. And we'll give you one guess why. If you guess what it is yet. That's right, it's because they're EU citizens, whose jobs are protected by EU employment regulations. Hang on. Didn't those same regulations protect British workers once? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did, when we used to be in some club or another. Be careful what you vote for, RMT members, because you might just get it. Folks, we are all devastated for the 800 seafarers who've lost their jobs. As a seafarer myself, I share their pain. But Kwasi Kwarteng can't act all shocked and surprised at P&O's antics when he wrote the book laying out the roadmap taken by them. And the RMT aren't helping anyone by advising their members to vote for Brexit and then acting all shocked and injured when their members suffer the direct and predictable consequences of Brexit. And finally, to the electorate of Dover, electing representatives of Natalie Elphick's calibre isn't the solution to anyone's problems. So what does this have to do with Scotland, I hear you all ask? Well, sadly, we're still part of the UK, but even with the limited autonomy we do have, we've proved that the strategy in Britannia Unchained isn't necessarily the best way forward for a nation. On outsourcing, the COVID pandemic was and still is an absolute tragedy. Unless, of course, you own an outsourcing firm. Because if you did own an outsourcing firm, it was like all your Christmases and birthdays had arrived at once. Serco, Sitel, G4S all did very, very well. However, the Scottish Government, insofar as was possible, didn't just outsource every service. It was entirely possible not to outsource everything to your friends and donors, and still provide the services the public needed. And guess what? It still is. On embedding the private sector into public service. The NHS is probably the only publicly owned service left in England, but it won't remain so for long. In Scotland, we've retained Scottish Water, which is privatised in England, and we've just brought ScotRail back into public ownership. On slashing standards and workers' rights, well, the jobs of French and Irish P&O employees are protected by EU legislation, and our wish to rejoin the EU would see these protections reinstated for Scottish P&O sailors, just like the Irish and French ones. Now, until the Labour Party become an effective opposition again, our UK is doomed to continue under Tory governments in this horrible direction. P&O and those 800 sailors will just be the tip of the iceberg. Everything outsourced, public services privatised, standards on workers' rights slashed. That's the economic model the Tories are building. And if you keep voting for them, you're just letting them do it. All over the UK there are people who see the plight of those P&O sailors and are crying into their Union Jack saying, "This isn't the Brexit I voted for." And to those people I would say, this is exactly the kind of Brexit we saw coming, and exactly the kind of Brexit that 62% of Scots voted against. But sadly, it's exactly the Brexit we had imposed upon us anyway. It doesn't have to be like this, folks. But if Scotland stays with the UK, nothing will change. So if any of you find yourselves anywhere near a voting booth anytime soon, please remember this video. Thanks for watching, folks. Please share this with anyone you like.